Now, my name is Garrick.
Hello there and welcome to Shuttle Bay 4. This time we're talking about Garak, one of the most contentious characters in all of Star Trek. The bulk of this conversation occurred back in July 2024, so before any appearances in Lower Decks. This is quite a long video, but that's because there's so much to say about this fantastic character.
Right, we'll start in a sec. We've got brushes on now, Gibbo's on now. We've got a new face as well. Tom's joined us, and we do have a strict policy of we never force anyone to talk. But you're more than welcome to introduce yourself and tell us about yourself. But we'll not force you to do so. Right, I think what we're going to do. Right, we'll get started. So normally, obviously, when we're talking about an episode, I'll just do a really quick summary of the episode just to make it easy. Well, it's not an episode. We're here to talk about Garak. So I've just got a little bit of background just so we know exactly who we're talking about. I think we all know who we're talking about. Are you ready? So, who is Elim Garak?
Elim.
Well, it's just a Cardassian tailor, except he isn't. We actually know very little about Garak, to be honest, because you're never quite sure if what you're getting is the truth, especially the lies. But anyway, he was a member of the Obsidian Order, which is the Cardassian intelligence agency, which is probably the most feared organization in Star Trek. They are a group of spies, torturers. They're like Big Brother. They're overseers, they're controllers, and they're split into cells so that if an agent is captured, he can't really give away any secrets because he actually doesn't know that much himself. They're a very secretive organization. Garak was banished to Terok Nor, which eventually became the space station Deep Space Nine. You might have heard of it. Which in itself doesn't really make much sense because the Obsidian Order delete people. Do you know what I mean? If you kind of infringe what they want you to do, they'll just get rid of you. So that kind of asks more questions than it answers. You know, is he a Cardassian spy? Is he a spy for someone else? Is he a double agent? But what we do know is he's got a great sense of humor, he's charming, he's intelligent, and he's deadly. He's good friends with Bashir, often considered more than just friends, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. Andrew Robinson, who played Garak, played him as a character without a defined sexuality. He didn't want him to be confined to a label of straight or gay, and Robinson referred to Garak's sexuality as just inclusive, which hints at him being pansexual. So gender identity, or because this is a sci-fi series, alien species or alien race, doesn't matter to him. Attraction isn't limited to a narrow subset. Having said that, though, that wasn't canonized in the series. That's just how Andrew Robinson wanted to portray him. It's a shame that the studio execs weren't really brave enough to do that, mainly because of the American obsession with the nuclear family, and I think they were a bit worried about having a character that wasn't heterosexual in the series, and they didn't want Star Trek to be particularly sexualized either. But the bizarre thing is that Garak was allowed to kill people, which probably says a lot about the sad state of LGBTQ plus representation on TV, when you can have a character kill people that can be a terrorist, but they can't have a non-heterosexual relationship. Andrew Robinson loved his character very much. It was instrumental in shaping him. I understand as well from listening to him at panels that he kept a journal where he created a backstory for the character to really flesh him out so that there was a lot of depth to him. And I think that journal was used for his book, A Stitch in Time, which I've not read, but I know other people on here have read it. And that's one of the biggest contributions to Beta Canon, you know, expands on his backstory and things like that. But anyway, to summarize, he's a tailor, a terrorist, a killer, he's a friend. He's got some of the best lines in Deep Space Nine, and we're here to talk about him. So, talk about him. Who wants to go first on Garak? Does anybody not like him as a character, just out of interest?
No, I think he's all right. Even I like him, which is
He's all right.
The whole character is brilliantly written as one of the favourites. Very camp, maybe pansexual, a bit curious,
Aren't you just a little bit curious?
but great character. I've been watching a bit of DS9. Some of the lines with Quark are brilliant. He's just very fun, likable character. Everyone likes Garak, as far as I know.
Yeah, he doesn't share a lot of time with Quark, I don't think, on screen, does he? I think it's quite rare that you see them both together.
There was one, I think it's The Way of the Warrior,
Yes,
where they have a drink and they're talking about
root beer.
some sort of juice, just like the Federation.
Yeah,
It's a very good scene.
What is it? A human drink. It's called root beer. I don't know.
Yeah, bizarrely, a few weeks ago we actually covered that episode, and we specifically talk about that scene because it is a great scene. Because they're talking about, like I said, they're talking about root beer and they're likening it to the Federation, saying it's sweet.
What do you think? It's vile. I know. It's so bubbly, cloying, and happy. Just like the Federation.
I can't remember the phrase he uses now, but cloying. That's it. And he says eventually,
Cloying, insidious, just like the Federation.
and eventually you start to like it, something like that.
If you drink enough of it, you begin to like it.
It's insidious.
Just like the Federation.
Yeah, that is a great scene, and I think that does stand out because it's one of the few scenes where they seem to talk. But you do get the impression they probably would get on quite well, usually. While I don't know if anyone remembers, but we did cover our favourite Star Trek characters quite a bit ago, and I think Garak featured a lot. It didn't feature for me at the time because when I was thinking of my favourite Star Trek characters, I'm thinking about the Starfleet values because that's what I like about Star Trek. And Garak is the complete opposite of Starfleet values. But because of these Shuttle Bay 4 meetings, when we've done episodes with Garak in, I have come to love him as a character. Now, if I were to redo that, I probably would have him in my top 5. He is just a fascinating character. So, Steve, you don't hate Garak then?
Surprisingly not, no. Yeah, I think it's because there's a hint of evil about him. You know, that he'll do the things that others won't.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't mind getting his hands dirty, and you got to respect a man that will do that.
Yeah.
I think his book, A Stitch in Time, really explains quite a lot. And when you were saying about the him keeping a journal and backstory, you can really tell when you listen to the book or read the book, and it does explain quite a lot in terms of why he is the way he is, which of course, if he's kept notes, explains that. But yeah, I like the fact that he's very much, oh, you can trust me, but only to a point. I'm going to help you, but then equally, am I really going to help you?
Yeah.
He's sort of the likable bad guy.
Yeah. I think all the Kardashians are, though. The Kardashians are so well written, whether it's, Garak or Gul Dukat, they all seem to be really just great characters. There's a lot of depth to them and a lot of charm as well. A great villain tends to be quite charming, and all the Kardashians tend to be like that.
He sort of has this, almost this sort of 007-ish bit about him, the debonair, but it's with a hint of, I'd stab your nan for a tenner, that sort of thing,
He is
but
I think it's because it's quite suave.
He'd always have to be in front of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have him behind you at any time because you'd be just like that all the time.
Well, it's like Nog when they crashed on that planet and they found the Jem'Hadar warship, and Nog just literally would not walk in front of it.
Yeah.
And it was just like after Empok Nor, obviously.
Yeah.
Don't you think he's a bit soft?
Soft? What, Garak?
Well, like in Way of the Warrior, he got battered.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't worry, I got off some insult damage for years to come. And I'm just like, you can't fight. So he's a bit of a pussy.
But I got off several cutting remarks, which no doubt did serious damage to their egos.
I know, but I think that's I think with Garak, it's all psychological. And I think it's kind of like, the penny is mightier than the sword when it comes to Garak.
Yeah.
Because you get the impression that obviously we don't know what he said to these Klingons, and he might have just been saving face. He might have just been whooped, and he might have just been disgraced. But I personally reckon that he did say things to them that will play on their mind, and for years to come. Maybe just a bit like Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs, where he just gets into your head and he can make people. Well, Hannibal Lecter gets the guy next to him to kill himself, doesn't he? He knows what your vulnerabilities are. He knows what buttons to press.
I'm almost completely healed, but the damage I did to them will last a lifetime.
And he knows stuff about everyone. And one of the things that we have said before, I think it was actually when we did Way of the Warrior, he seems to have intelligence on everyone in Deep Space Nine, and he likes people to know that. He likes people to know that he knows. He might not even tell you what he knows about, but he likes you to know that he knows shit about you. Because I'm always talking about this power dynamic when it comes to Garak, but the power dynamic with him, it always swings his way because he knows so much about people. That if he wanted to, he could, release your internet browsing history or something, and that'd be the downfall of you. And even Cisco reluctantly needs him. Again, Way of the
Yeah.
Warrior, when he brings him in,
I'd like to be measured for a new suit.
Now,
Right now.
and then he's like, I can't remember what Garak says now, something like, I think I've got everything I need here.
well, thank you, Captain. I believe I have everything I need.
He has this intense need to come off better.
Yeah.
So he thinks of every possible eventuality, everything he would do to, if he was going up against himself, and he does that for everybody else. He covers all the bases so that no one can get one up on him.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that he feels secure, is to be able to do that. And while they're guessing, they haven't got him figured out, which then means he's free to do what he wants to do.
Yeah. And because you never know if he's telling the truth or not, you can't, you always...
He's
on edge with
always
him.
telling the truth.
Even the lies.
Always.
Oh, you meant to say especially the lies.
Especially, I'm not sorry.
My dear doctor, they're all true.
Even the lies.
Especially the lies.
How many, does anybody know how many episodes he's in? If not, I'll Google it.
33.
33 episodes. And how many episodes of Deep Space Nine were there? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There must have been
174, I guess. 172. It's normal. Oh, there's less. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I suppose it depends, because like Way of the Warrior, is that 1 or is it 2? Depending on how you look at it. So he's not in a huge amount of the episodes, is he?
He's not, but actually I was surprised because I watched the first episode he's in, which is episode 3 of the whole series, I think.
Yeah.
It's, and it's how we meet Bashir, which is always, it's a really good scene because he is totally, he just walks up to him really brazen. Hello.
Sits down.
Basically, hello, doctor.
It's Dr. Bashir, isn't it? Of course it is. May I introduce myself?
Yes, of course.
We're joining you.
Is he only in one episode in season 1 as well?
Yeah, because he was supposed to be a one-off character. He was written as a one-off character that was useful for that particular story. But then the writers fell in love with writing for him. You can tell because he's written so well. And you can tell the writers did love writing for him, which is also obvious compared to writing for any Starfleet character. Because you've got to write them within certain boundaries. Yeah. And with that character, he was in a unique position because he wasn't part of Cardassia, even though he was Cardassian, and he wasn't, part of the station. And so, they could use him, but he could use them exactly the same way. You know what I mean? He did always have the upper hand.
I think the character did evolve quite a lot. I think when he came on, the implication was that he was the Cardassian spy. He was the plant. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was going to be Cardassia's man on the station. It turned out not to be that way. Sorry if someone said that already, but I couldn't find the link. Someone moved it.
Oh, sorry, that's my... I've caused chaos today. So I moved the order of the website. I do apologise. Sorry, Patches. Every week I'm in a different place. Rush, I like that. You said that he's not Starfleet, and I think that's a really good point, because when you're writing for Starfleet characters, you're quite limited to what you can do with them, right? Apart from Cisco's probably pushes the boundaries more than any of the others, but it's made obvious that he is pushing the boundaries, and that becomes a plot point. I can live with it and all that jazz. Whereas with Garak, I bet there was in the writers' room just a bit of joy. They've got freedom with this character; they can do what they want with him.
Asking a Ferengi to play a Cardassian game is like asking a Klingon to chew with his mouth closed.
You do feel through the screen that they are enjoying it, just because of the way he talks. Every line is just brilliant. I mentioned Hannibal Lecter earlier on, actually. And when I watched Silence of the Lambs with the kids as part of their education, when I pick a film to watch, I said, listen to what Hannibal Lecter says. Every single thing he says is saying for a reason. Not one word is wasted. Everything he says is got an agenda. And it's the same with Garak. Even when he's having a laugh or having a joke, is normally forcing people down, and he's rising above it.
And also, I find his tone of voice he uses compared to his facial expressions are the exact opposite as well of each other. So again, there's that duplicitness of he's saying something, duplicity. Yeah.
I was going to say, right, before you go, Brush, I was going to say, I bet Brush uses the word duplicitous. We always use it with and it's the best word to describe him. It is the best word. But you're right, because he's got like this smile on his face, and it's just
glint in his eye.
The way he's saying it, the way he's delivering it, doesn't go with the actual words he's saying often. So there's always a conundrum in your mind already. It's like everything he says ends in a question mark.
Yeah. and he's playing with you all the time. Like when he's having a dig at I forgot his name now. Shit, I'm so shooting. I just need a list of everyone's names. Cole Meany. Cole Meany plays Miles O'Brien. There you go. It's come to me. In again, Way the Warrior. We just keep going back to Way the Warrior. No, it's not Way the Warrior. It's the Empok Nor episode when they're on the ship.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Oh yeah, tell us about when you were a soldier," and he doesn't want to talk about it. And he's loving the fact that he's making O'Brien uncomfortable. It's absolutely reveling.
I'd love to play Kotra against the hero of Setlik 3.
What is that supposed to mean?
And I do love that.
I think the Wire. So I think the people. I know Patches did, but the episode The Wire is really important because it kind of shows that he actually hates being on the station. You know, he hates being exiled. He loves Cardassia, you know, as a proper patriot. And it's interesting because that doesn't come across often in his character in other episodes. And they do explain, you know, that he's suffering, and so he's used this thing in his head to help him.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it's an important part of his character that we then recognise moving forward from then. Because again, in future episodes, they don't touch on that too much. It's still Garak that we knew, rather than us understanding the pain he goes through just being on the station every day, you know.
Do you think he gets away with more than any other character would, right? Because let's say Data has something in his head and it causes him to kill people, go mental, and like literally stab them like in Empok Nor or whatever, and string the bodies up. So not just kill them, but really kind of like, you know, violate the corpses. Well, not in that way. But if Data did that, there'd be no, for the rest, every time you watch him, you'd be like, fucking hell, he killed someone and strung the bodies up. But as with Garak, he gets away with it as a character almost.
Well, the thing is, we already knew he was capable of that, so it was kind of like his character gone over the top.
Okay.
Although, because the explanation of it was, you know, psychotropic drugs, so even if it was Nog or if it was O'Brien, they would have kind of forgiven her like that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, because in real life, if someone goes on a killing spree and they turn around and go, well, I was high, doesn't really let them out of jail.
Yeah.
Not usually, no.
We're not talking about Star Trek.
Yeah. Well, Jed, have you finished your tea now?
Of course.
What did you have?
Burger.
Oh,
It's
nice
just a
one.
bit quick.
There's nothing wrong with your burger.
Christian,
Yeah.
it's called diminished responsibility, and it is a legit defence. If you're up for murder or a killing spree, particularly a killing spree all at one time, and you're off your nut on drugs, it's called diminished responsibility, and it is a legit defence. Not that I've used it, but you know it is.
There you go, Christian. Bit of advice here.
He's got it ready in case.
So I got kicked in the head, and I just wasn't sure what I was doing. Jed, the reason I picked on you a minute ago is because you're a massive Deep Space Nine fan, right? And I know you love Garak. So what is it about Garak that makes you love him so much?
He's mysterious.
Yeah.
He's the quintessential anti-hero.
Yes.
He is evil. He is, you know, he's non-trustworthy, but you know he's going to do the right thing. But he'll also do a thing that will benefit him.
Yeah.
He's trustworthy and untrustworthy at the same time. He'll have your back and he'll also stab you in the back. He's basically a contradiction, and I think he's great.
Yeah.
He has got some of the best lines.
Definitely, yeah.
He's been in some of the really dark, gritty. Pale Moonlight, man.
Yeah.
That is my favourite. That is a man who will go to any lengths to get what he drags Cisco into the dark underbelly of what he does.
Yeah.
You know.
The thing is, you see Cisco in a completely different light because of Garak. Because obviously it goes along with it, and he says that line, I can live with it. And he goes into his shop and he literally punches him in the face, which normally, it punches you as well. To just go in and punch him, you wouldn't see any other captain do that.
No.
And Garak drove him to that.
But yeah, well, how many two people died in that episode? The Romulan ambassador and the guy who created the fake data stick, because they knew it was fake.
Murdered them both.
It's a fake.
It's a fake.
But Garak knew what he was doing, so he flew off. He blew his shuttle up. So when they find the data stick, any discrepancies in it will be put down to the explosion.
Yeah.
So in all, it does drag. Because if that didn't happen, the Romulans would have sided with the Dominion, and then that would have been it. The Klingons, the Feds, everybody would have been wiped out.
Yeah, but as always, he's 3 or 4 steps ahead. He knew what was going to happen. There's Cisco counting on the fact of this being right and this, passing. The whole time, Garrick, like, I know it's not going to pass, but don't worry, I know what I'm doing. But I'm not going to tell anybody until it's done, because Federation Starfleet will try and stop him. Insidious little fucker, but we love him.
Oh, love it. It's like it's like we watched 5, didn't we? Watch The Wire. We watched the one where he goes finding Upton Tane. Got his name.
Bran.
Yeah, him, and he's joined the Romulans. The Shi'ar, what is it? The Tel Shiar. Yeah, and then we watched.
Jed, is that the one where he blows up his own shop?
Yeah, that's the one where he blows up his own shop.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the way through it, when Old Dog says you blew up your own shop. And he's like, looking, he said, because that assassin does poison. And them types of assassin have got their own MO. And they don't deviate. You blew up your own shop to bring me into it. He's a devious fucker. And I love him. Because even after the explosion, you knew something was a bit off. Because the entire shop was ransacked. It was destroyed. And he's got a cut above his eye.
Yeah.
Come on. The door was blown out. A lot. And then we watched the one where he goes to save him, and you find out he's his dad. And then you find out he's got that fear. He's got the fear of claustrophobia. Now, I'm claustrophobic as feck, and I think that's what drew me to him.
Yeah.
As well. It's just the fact that he does the right thing, and at the end, as we all know, at the end, he's always for Cardassian. He always has. But he'll also back his mates up. But yeah, I love him. Absolutely love him.
I found that those two things aren't mutually exclusive. The best thing for Cardassia is most of the time sticking with his mates and doing what's right and sticking with the people that he knows on Deep Space Nine, not just the Bajorans and the Federation types, but, he's in tight with Quark as well. You know what I mean? Those two things aren't mutually exclusive, and he kind of demonstrates that. So that's a good point there, Jed.
It's also, like, in them episodes, you find out that he let prisoners escape children.
Did he?
Yeah, because
he
said the truth. There's truth in the lies, and the lies are better than the truth.
He didn't blow the.
I don't think he blew the shuttle up. I think that was a lie. I think he let the kids go.
But he said his friend Illim did it, and he tried to pin it on him.
That's what.
But did he do it for a hot meal and the night off because he was just? He said the air was freezing and it was like ice. And did he just get bored of torturing people, or did he have a heart and let them go?
Well,
that's what I mean.
You know what I mean? And I think there's the fact that he's kind of got a split personality there, because he talks about this guy Elim, me and Elim, and I think there's a split, and he's talking about the split within himself. There's the side of him that has a heart, that the side of him that is a heartless, ruthless, like intelligence operator can't cope with, and it doesn't gel. Do you know what I mean? And the fact that he has a conversation with Odo in the runabout on the way to look for Inarbor and Tane, and he's like, "Do you feel anything for anyone ever?" Yeah. And that was quite an emotional scene, actually. And I was like, "Do you know what? This Elim, me and Elim thing from the Wire that comes before, I think he's conflicted by being such a terrible bastard, to be honest."
Well, in that same episode with Odo, he's when he's interrogating Odo with the device, he's pleading with him. Home! I want to go home. And then once he tells him he wants to go home, he turns it off, and you can see it in his face. He didn't want to do it.
Is that The Wire? Sorry.
No, that's do you know? I forget the one.
Oh, the one.
That's the one where the Cardassians and the Romulans go to attack the Founders' homeworld.
I get, yeah.
And it's all staged.
Yeah.
Because even the changeling Romulan commander says, "Why was you protecting Odo?"
Yeah.
And he's trying to say, "I wasn't." That's what I mean. I just love him. He's great.
Does anybody know the reason why he's been banished to DS9? Is it because he let those kids go?
I think it is.
I don't
know. The story that he runs with.
That shuttle full of kids.
85 Bajorans. They were children, Doctor. None of them were older than 14 years old. They knew nothing.
No, the story that he runs with is he didn't pay his taxes. That's what he's telling everyone. That's his front story. But I think it's something to do with Inarbor and Tane
The only common enemy you and I share is Enabran Tain.
There was a betrayal there. He was given an order and he didn't follow it. And in fact, some of
was
the
that order to
extended
kill that shuttle
world.
full of kids, and he went no.
No, it wasn't that. It goes into the extended world, and it's in A Stitch in Time.
Yeah.
I'm not actually going to ruin that for you because the audio book's now it's available for free. So go for it, people.
I'm definitely going to listen to that because
I'm just going to find a brush. Is that a brush?
Sit on the toilet with it, yeah.
It's a good book. It's a good book.
John Joe's probably a bit like me, and I know he is, because lore means everything to you. And if it's not canon, then it doesn't exist. Because I don't think it's established in the series why he's on Deep Space Nine. Which again, like Jed says, that adds to the mystery of him. Because there's loads of, I mean, if you look online, there's probably loads of forum discussions about, why is he there, and people coming up with their own theories.
He does give a few stories, like Patch has said. He does give the one about taxes.
Yes.
And he does give a story. There's 3 stories he tells about this guy, his best friend called Elin. So obviously he's already lying, but we didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You never know.
Never say the same lie twice.
You should never tell the same lie twice.
Yeah, never say it.
That's one of his best ones.
That was a good story, that.
I mean, the thing with the book is that it is really, really well thought out, and it does answer a lot of the questions that you would have had watching the series. Things that you sit there, and even some of the bits that you forget. And you're like, oh, okay. It starts off when he was a child, and you understand the Cardassian system and the way that their education goes and how they're taught to think from a young age and everything like that. And it's honestly, it's like night and day. You read it and you're just like, oh. And you spend a lot of your time going, oh, yeah. Oh, well, that explains a lot. He's done a cracking
credence
job.
to books normally, like Dan was saying, because it's not lore, but the fact that it was written by Garak and the fact that the act had such an influence over that character in the series, it's one of the very few books I've read. I'll say read, listened to.
Yeah, and it's read by the author as well, the audio book. So there isn't anything that goes against canon there. It just slightly expands on things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
It doesn't go into too much detail as well. It bogs down in some minutiae.
Yeah.
Like his dad looks after the plants for municipal sites and government buildings and all of that lot. Well, is the guy that raised him. And it talks about things that we know, but it gives an emphasis to it. Do you know what I mean? This patriotism and this love of the state. It goes beyond patriotism to almost fanatical loyalty to their people and the lengths that they'd go to, and the competition between them as well, Cardassians, and that we see that between Gul Dukat and Garak. It is a dog eat dog, or crocodile eat crocodile, if you like, system that they live by. It's very Roman. It's very Nazi actually. The cream will naturally rise to the surface. If you're good enough for the job, you'll just take it. And if you can't physically destroy someone, then you psychologically plot to just completely unwrap them. So the book just shows Garak as an absolute master. And it's hinted to by Enabran Tain and other people, like, this guy is dangerous.
The whole book is written straight after the Dominion War, when he goes back to Cardassia. And he's writing to Bashir, so there's that very much that friendly tone, the whole, I'm writing a letter to a friend, and it jumps between his history and what's going on at the time.
But I really like that, because you never know if it's the truth, because that's the way the context is set. It's a letter to Bashir. How many lies are told to Bashir, and I do like that about the book.
So
it's a very
question. How many have read the book or listened to the book?
No, not yet.
No.
Yeah.
I've Googled it while you've been talking, and it's saying that the book goes for an average of £150.
No.
I think it
does. If it does, I've got a copy. I'll be digging it out.
It depends entirely on the condition, Christian. If there's creases on the spine, dog-eared, it's not a very well produced book. It's a dime store paperback. So if there's loose pages, or the pages have gone brown, there's creases on the spine, it's dog-eared, it's not worth that. For a mint condition book, you can pay up to 300, 400 quid for a mint condition one with white pages.
I can't see one cheaper than 80 on here.
80 is a good price. What kind of condition is it in?
Good. Yeah, it looks good. It looks
You'd
near mint.
you'd have to see it near mint.
Maybe there's some.
Right, my advice, Christian, is to buy that immediately. Have Andrew Robinson sign it, and you've got a £500 book.
Yeah, okay. Photograph him signing it.
I was about to say that. Yeah, if you've got a cheap one and you don't want it anymore, that's
How do I
definitely
get
the
the
thing to
ebook
do.
then? So I was going to buy it and read it because I'd never heard of it before you guys started talking about it. Then I saw the prices. Now I'm not going to buy it.
It's on Audible if you've got Audible. I'm sure it's on
Could you-
wherever you get your ebooks from.
Yeah, but how do you get
Could you imagine if you
Audible?
took your? Could you
Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
if you took your book and he turned around and he went, "I don't sign books anymore." Fucking how gutted would you
I'd
be?
fucking-
You'd literally grab his arm and tell him to fucking sign it.
Yeah, you fucking do now.
I can't wait to see what you're
That works out better actually, because then you've got his blood on it. That's worth more.
DNA, it's an extra 200 quid.
You just say, "Well, can I take a photograph with a pen next to the book? Because I can just do the signature myself, and I've got, that'll do." I think as well, like I say, it's technically the book isn't canon, but because it's written by Andrew Robinson, and because he kept notes about the character and developed the character, it feels as close to canon as you're ever going to get. And I think people accept this as canon in a way they wouldn't with any other book. I know officially it isn't, but it does have more credence because it is Andrew Robinson. And the reason he wrote the book wasn't because I'm going to cash in on Deep Space Nine. Clearly he didn't, because the book, there doesn't seem to be that many produced. But he wrote it because he loved the character, and maybe he had unfinished business in his head. Especially if he'd written a journal and like developed this character's backstory, he might have been just brimming with ideas. He's like, this is a story that needs telling. Speaking of,
I'm surprised it didn't sell more. To be honest with you. To be fair, I only heard of it in the last sort of year or so on Audible. I was like, "What's this?" And I've seen this. And I was like, "Oh wow, yeah."
None of the books were doing well at that time. None of them. There was people were churning these books out. William Shatner was churning them out.
Yeah.
Leonard Nimoy had a turn at churning them out. And they weren't doing particularly well. And I think the general consensus, the reviews at the time was Andrew Robinson is not a writer. Now, the people that were reviewing these books and panning them are not Trekkies. So for us, it's just packed with Easter eggs and nuggets, and it's great stuff.
Indeed,
but for your average book critic, it's junk. It's literally pulp. And because it got such a dodgy review at the time, they didn't go into a second print run. So every edition is a first edition, apart from the ones that were made in Germany.
It's limited in its appeal as well, because when you think about it, you've got to be a Star Trek fan, not just a Star Trek fan, but a Deep Space Nine fan to really, want it. So straight away, you've only got a really thin slither of the whole book market. By the way, Patches, you're looking pretty dapper there. I'm loving that. Look at that.
You sexy bitch.
You like that?
I do like
check,
that. Yeah.
Check that out. And the sleeves.
Oh.
Look at that.
God, that looks amazing.
I can't believe you're wearing this shit before DT. That's.
I'm only wearing it for Shuttle Bay 4.
It's trying all of ours on one by one to see which one it
Yeah. This one is actually brushes.
have you just been to gym in that?
Actually, I have. Yeah.
Christian's got a pair of scissors. I think he's going to cut you.
Christian's just worried for when Patches stretches his. Fucking, he look like a 2-year-old in an adult t-shirt.
Christian, never bring a knife to a gunfight, baby. Don't do that.
Were you not here when I got my gun out earlier? Come
Yeah,
on.
oh God.
I think I'm winning this one.
That sounds ominous.
That is good. That is. I do.
Yeah,
like that. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, do you know when you were talking about The Wire earlier on? I was reading about that earlier because Schindler's List inspired that story, because I've made. I was trying to realize what my notes are. So I've got ISB. What's ISB mean? But it's Ira Stephen Bear. So Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolf, who was the co-producer on season 1 of Deep Space Nine and the producer from season 2, and also was one of the main writers. He started on TNG. I think he was one of these people who submitted a fan script and then got into it that way. They had a conversation and they were talking about Schindler, and they were kind of like surmising, what if Schindler wasn't the hero? What if he, killed these people that he said, you know what I mean? And they were on about the fact that what if he was the butcher rather than the savior? And, what if you didn't know, because you just get in his half of the story? And that discussion inspired The Wire, and the things that happen around Garak on there. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's such a great story, because it was inspired by a real life event, a real life story. I'm not saying it was based on it, 'cause it's not. All I'm saying is that conversation sparked a few ideas, and that's where that came from. Because I think when that came out is when Schindler's List, the film, had just been released, in the mid-90s. It was quite, obviously, big film.
There's lots like that, isn't there? Influence there. I don't know if you've covered it. One of the writers that came up with Garrick and the idea of a clothes shop was driven by the. I'm not sure if you've covered. Yeah.
Yeah. No, like you said.
Yeah, you've already covered it.
No, we haven't. I've got it as a.
Have you not?
No, you say it. Go on.
Yeah. It was. You've completely thrown me off what it's actually from now. But where the.
If they're not, if they're not, what's the male equivalent of your auntie?
Uncle, man from Uncle. And it's the spy ring is run from this tailor's shop.
Yeah.
And that influenced his decision to put him in a tailor's shop because they couldn't come up with an idea of how do we make a Cardassian be not a Cardassian.
Yeah.
But somehow be on a station.
I think
I thought that was really clever.
I think it was Robert Hewitt Wolf who came up with it. I think I'd need to double check that because I think that they weren't quite sure what to do with him, so he just suggested a tailor, because like you say, it was like paying homage to the man from Uncle, and nobody challenged it. So all right, then we'll have him as a tailor, because they didn't know what to do with the character. Like I think Brush said, he was there as like a one-off, and he didn't appear until the next season. And I think they realised they got gold with this character. It's like, shit, we've got this character. We can have this character do stuff we can't do with any other character. And Andrew Robinson is a superb actor as well, who loves the character. He's not somebody who, because you can imagine a lot of people. A famous example being, I don't know if you've heard of this thing called Star Wars, but I forgot the name of the character. Who played Obi-Wan? What's the name of the actor?
The original was Alec Guinness.
Alec Guinness, yes. So Sir Alec Guinness, he hated the fact that he was in Star Wars to start with. I don't know if you've heard any interviews with him, but it deliberately mispronounces Jedi. Is like, when you'll see him on like Parkinson, and he's like, yeah, so I'm basically a member of the Jedi, and the Jedi have these powers. And he's just, he also calls it the Jedi. That's how he says it. But he felt that Jedi, yeah.
I bet Dee's a fan of the Jedi.
But he felt it was like beneath him because he'd come from Ealing comedies and stage, and Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. When he did that, he felt like that was worthy of his work. But he felt that Star Wars was just a bit daft. And Andrew Robinson, obviously he was in Dirty Harry, so he'd been in some big films. But instead of looking down on this character, he loved it. He loved this character portrayed, and
he nailed it as well.
Absolutely, yeah, he did nail it. Because was it Brush was saying when we did Empok Nor that he didn't want his character to be like a serial killer because that's who he intended to play. And in that character, in that episode, he did, play a serial killer.
There's a really famous interview in there saying they'd done all the character development. He said he was really unhappy with ironically, which is one of the best rated episodes of DS9. He said he was really unhappy with the character development because it felt like it took a step backwards.
Yeah.
I only know that because I've had about 1,000 YouTube shorts after watching Garrick when I was ill. So, Deep Space Nine is my go-to. So, yeah, I'm well prepared for this conversation.
He is a strange character because a lot of characters that people love in Star Trek, it's because, like, for example, I know Patches loves Captain Kirk. A lot of people love, Data or love Picard. And a lot of the time it's because they find them quite inspirational. They want to be like that character, whereas with Garak, I'm not quite sure how much of it is I'm not sure how many people want to be like Garak. But having said that, if you take out the positive aspects of me as a strong character, and like we've said, although it's not canon, because they never actually said he is, pansexual or whatever, because Andrew Robinson...
Do you think I want to be like Captain Kirk? Is that what you just said?
No.
Yes, because you're right.
That's exactly
you are
what I
right.
said.
No, is that Brannigan for you? But because Andrew Robinson, that in his mind, that's how the character was. So I think people have accepted that the character is that way. When you get, and it's kind of retrospective this, because at the time I'm not quite sure how big it was that it was maybe part of the LGBTQ plus community. But when somebody is from that community on TV in the past, they tended to be, I'm free, I'm the gay character. You know what I mean? They were always kind of like, their sexuality defined them, and they were always, really camp or whatever. So to get a really strong character who's actually an assassin, I can understand how that is in terms of representation on TV. That was something quite unique. I don't know how many people at the time saw Garak as you know, a non-heterosexual character or not, because I actually wasn't really aware of it when I first watched it. It was only afterwards when people have said it, and Andrew Robinson's talked about it, that I've gone back to it. I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that. So it may not really have been a thing at the time, but retrospectively now.
There's another really famous quote again. I'm probably pulling this from a YouTube video, but it's like on the first episode when he's introduced, the thing was, he'll eat you or he'll fuck you.
Yes.
I'm sure that is a quote in there somewhere, and it didn't matter whether you're a woman or a man or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think that's verbatim. But yeah, I'm sure he did say something along those lines, because I've been watching a lot of Garak stuff recently as well, and yeah.
See, you say about how watching it you didn't realize like Garak was like, well, the way he is with his sexuality and stuff. Now, obviously, it's different for me because I watched it 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
I watched it when like this is a big thing.
Yeah.
And to me, I looked at him and immediately went, yeah, he's gay.
Yeah. I think also for me, it's because I just didn't really like Deep Space Nine at the time. Deep Space Nine, the biggest crime Deep Space Nine ever committed was it wasn't TNG at the time.
Yeah.
Right? It was like, oh, Deep Space Nine. Oh, it's only after, I think Deep Space, I'm not saying everybody hated it, because a lot of people loved it, but I think it's one of those series where afterwards people have gone back to it and like, this is really fucking. Armin Shimon was saying that actually in one of the DSTs. He was talking about it because he was saying. Because he was basically saying, I honestly think it is the best of all the Star Trek series. You know, he was on about the fact that, and I do agree with that now.
Trust does. He was in it.
Yeah. Oh, he was in TNG for one episode. But I mean, I don't want to bang on about this because this isn't about Garak. But what I've said countless times is TNG, Picard, Data, and Brush will say Worf as well. The only three characters got development. In Deep Space Nine, every single character did. Even your side characters who weren't main bridge crew got. You know, a lot of development. And
but we knew more about Garak than we ever knew about Riker, for instance.
Yeah, or Crusher, or you know, Geordie LaForge. You're right, and he was only in 30 odd episodes or something.
Yeah, and it's the minor character. The fact that it was a minor character that had he was in like a quarter of them, and had such a profound impact on events.
Yeah,
like it brought the Romulans into the war. Like it's such lore building and stuff. It's incredible. It's fantastically written character for the appearance and the influence it's had. Absolutely.
See, when you said he was only in 30 episodes, I could have sworn he was in like 90% of them at least.
I think he was in 57 episodes. I think that's the figure, 57.
Right. Okay.
No, it's 37.
37. My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks.
In a row?
37. I stand corrected. 37.
It just feels wrong. Like it feels like he should have been in every. Like I seem to remember conversations happening in episodes he's not in. It's like, where is he? Where'd he go?
He was only in 21% of episodes. Yeah,
that's 1 in 5.
That's 1 in 5. Yeah.
But then, didn't you say he was only in 1 episode in season 1?
Yes, only in 1 episode in season 1. Yeah.
So that then means season 2 onwards, it's more like 1 in 3.
Yeah, I suppose it must
be. So that
doesn't
make it as bad, you know. If you think of him as season 2 onwards, he's a lot more frequent.
Yeah, I don't think he's in a lot in season 2 either. But if he was in
season.
If it was in 21% of episodes, it does mean that Deep Space Nine is 79% Garak free. If you think of it that way.
I want to know what Jed said. That's absolutely outrageous that they've muted the microphone and they're both laughing.
Why is he sniffing his own jizz rag? That's what I want to know.
He ran out of socks.
That's not going to make the edit, is it?
Wrong one. My jizz rag's here. I'll pass it there.
I thought he'd had pineapple earlier on in the day, and he thought, I'm gonna test this theory out.
Oh Jesus!
I'm sorry, Joe. D sneezed, and I've never heard a sneeze like that, and it just tickled me.
I'm gonna have to come back in at this point. Everything's just descended to chaos.
Come on, Patches.
Jizz rags. I'll turn my back for a second, and it's jizz rags. What have I missed?
You can imagine a Kazon character called Jizz Rag.
I can actually. Oh, Garak's amazing. I love Garak for such a little character in the series. Like John Joe said, no, but he is. He's barely used.
He is, yeah.
He's barely utilised, and when he is utilised, he's in some of the most grittiest episodes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I was trying to think of one of my favourite DS9 episodes that doesn't have him in.
You can.
And maybe The Ascent. I don't think he's in The Ascent, is he? I quite like that episode. But there's very, very few.
Is he in Little Green Men? don't think he is, is he?
No.
I love that.
Our trials and tribulations.
There you go.
Is he not on the ship, actually? I thought he was on the Defiant.
In Trials and Tribulations?
Yeah.
He might have been. He was on the Defiant a lot when they took Odo to his planet to get judged.
Yes.
We watched that one, and Garrick's get control of the quadrant.
blow up the planet.
Blow up the founders. And it's I nearly had control of the phasers. He's like, hell.
You were trying to override the launch controls for the quantum torpedoes.
I was hoping to gain control of the phasers as well. I just hadn't got around to it yet.
But we watched that. I was pissing my side through that because it's not aged well.
Which is the one where he tortures Odo?
That's a really poignant episode, yeah.
That's the one I was talking about.
That's the one where
the Tel Shiar and the Obsidian Order go into the Gamma Quadrant
and
destroy the founders.
Or something like that.
No, Sacrifice of Angels, where the
second episode is called The Die Is Cast.
Yeah, The Die Is Cast, and they go in, and but you can see he doesn't want to torture Odo. He's trying to protect it.
That's a great episode, though. And I struggle to watch that episode, not because it's bad, but because it is just it's that visual of Odo where he's like physically breaking down. And it is, honestly, it's difficult to watch because it's so well done, that makeup. And
it's one of the best torture scenes I think I've ever seen of like any film. Because they tend to overdo the violence in a lot of torture, like movies and stuff. Whereas that's more physical, a little bit physical, but mental as well. It's really well done, I think, that. But we're getting way off topic there. But yeah, he's fantastic in that episode, is Garak.
Yeah. I can't think of anything bad to say about Garak as a character, because all the bad stuff he is as a character, because obviously there is a lot of bad stuff about the character in terms of just evilness and just, but that's what makes him such a great character. Like you say, he is an anti-hero. And his influence in Deep Space Nine is massive. Like Jed said it best, when he's only in like 21% of the episodes. But when he is in an episode, he is a pivot point. Everything, he plays such a big part. I love that hat, by the way. That looks brilliant. Oh, it's got a yellow thing on it as well. I love it. I like that, yeah.
So it's got that detail on the side.
Yeah.
It's got yellow highlights, Shuttle Bay 4, yellow detail there. That's the gear.
Yeah, I think you mean now that it looks good in the different colours on black. That works really well. I like that.
So this is the patch.
Yeah.
And everyone said, "Oh no, Black Delta. Got to have the Black Delta. Or need the black, like the black." But it wouldn't show up on any dark colours like navy blue. You just see the yellow bar, and it kind of looks like you work in Tesco or B&Q or something. So that's the gold version, and that's what's on this and this.
Yeah.
See, I don't particularly like that, but it looks good on that black cap. So
no, exactly. Yeah, I was the same. I much prefer the normal coloration. But when I see it on that cap, it looks brilliant. But like yellow. And
yeah,
black,
but if you had that there, look.
Yeah, it just looks like it says Shuttle Bay 4. You can't see the. Yeah.
Can't see shit.
Yeah.
Well.
We will have to get a photo of all of us in our merch.
And that will never ever see the light of day of my Facebook account.
John Joe, are you a closet nerd? Have you not come out of the closet yet, mate?
Oh, I'm unbelievably closeted. Yeah.
Stevie's so far in the closet, he's in fucking Narnia. Come on, look at it. He's sat in a fucking shed surrounded by the shit.
Is that O'Brien up there in a frame? Is that who that is?
Which one? This one?
Yeah. Come on, bro. Closet. Come on, mate. Own it. Live with it.
When I work from out here, I have to put a blurred background on with a ship in the background.
Do you tell about do you tell all your work colleagues that every Thursday you join a rugby chat? Yeah, we just talk about rugby.
Yeah, that kind of worked until I saw one of my good work colleagues at a con in Basingstoke, and I was in full dress up. I was like, "Oh, hello! So I didn't realise you did this." I was like,
I went to a con a couple of weeks ago, just a small general one. About 5 years ago, I used to work at B&Q, and as I'm walking around, I see my old line manager dressed as a Ghostbuster.
Steve, I've seen you in pictures where you're in full Starfleet uniform, man. I mean,
there's nothing wrong with that. That's mature. That's grown up. I'm not fucking.
I was going to say
Garak.
I was going to say, I think Garak's the MacGyver of Star Trek.
Yeah, yes. It can fix anything with anything.
Yeah.
But somebody ends up dead. That doesn't happen in MacGyver.
Well, that's the fun side of it.
I like Garak, but no, there is no but. I like Garak. He's intriguing. He's condescending. He's funny, he's witty, he's sarcastic, he's everything, you know what I mean? I love that about him. He does bring some comedy elements. He does have some of the bestest lines. He's probably got some of the better stories as well, do you know what I mean? But some of the better episodes to appear in. They probably couldn't afford to put him in the filler ones, so they only brought him back into the episodes that he would be worthy of. Do you know what I mean? As Andrew Robinson would be worthy of appearing in.
He's a powerhouse actor. I mean, he's really, really good. He's on par with David Warner. He's a top-notch primo actor.
Put him and Mark Alamo together, and then
he's got gold.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Well, I mean, if for the benefit of people like Jed, I mean, Goldie Cat. You put Garak and Goldie Cat together.
Do you think one of the reasons why his episodes are so good is because he's such a different character? People are forced to think of something that's worthy of the character, and to think of twists that you wouldn't normally be able to get away with in a Star Trek episode, because his episodes do stand out.
They do, yeah.
They do.
Totally.
And I never realised the relationship he had with Odo until we started watching Garak episodes back.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we were going on about Quark and Odo, but nobody's ever spoken about the Garak and Odo relationship that goes on their bases.
Garak's got something going on with everyone. He's got something going on with Sisko. He's got something going on with Bashir. He's got something going on with Odo. And he kind of shares that, we're intelligence operators. We live in that world, that clandestine world. He's got something going on with everyone. I love that thing with Quark. We're the two alien guys here. We're not in this federation, but we live under its wing. And I love all of that. And do you know what? Except, and it is covered quite a bit, Major Kira, there's a bit of a problem there. And I think it's because she's racist. But I think she just doesn't like any Cardassian because she's lived under that brutal regime. And I don't think it's
in a Nazi occupation camp. You wouldn't really like Nazis at the end of it, would you? So I think that's well written, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but that's not every German was a member of the Nazi party. And
but
although
Garak doesn't distance himself from it, though, does he?
No, he doesn't. He actively admits it.
Yeah. She doesn't like any Cardassian though at all. So he's not going to get a chance. And even though, as we've said, he might be the Schindler type character, he might be the one good cop in a bad town, and that kind of story. He's just not going to get arse room with her. But everyone else has their thing with Garak. Even Dax on occasion talks to him, and she's got from what I can see, like this healthy respect of her. She knows he's dangerous. She knows that.
Yeah.
After that episode where they escaped from prison, Worf's got
Worf's got a respect for him,
better respect for him,
and a better understanding and more of a respect for him, because when they ran, as soon as they transported from the camp onto the ship, he was like that, well done, you know what I mean, good job. And he was like, yeah, no, you too, because he was getting his guts beaten in every day, and he was the one who got him out of there because it was when Martok and Worf were talking, and it's a brave man who faces his own fears for the betterment of others.
Yeah, is that when he's the one that's got to crawl into a really tight space, isn't he?
Yeah, to fix
and it's claustrophobic,
Yeah. I think Garak's a hard bastard. I think he's as hard as a coffin nail. Although he does, in The Wire is such an important episode, I think everyone kind of appreciates Deep Space Nine finds its feet and changes from season 4 onwards and becomes something quite special. But for season 2, The Wire is just excellent with this. How do I cope with being different? How do I cope with everyone looking at me with his hatred? And he just turns up his pleasure wire and leaves it on. And that's how he gets through it. And that's the only chink in his armor, because he hard-face shites everything that goes on.
Yes.
And he takes a lot of shit. Garak takes a lot of shit. He does take a lot of shit. And it comes out in The Wire. It comes out in The Wire. He's like, everyone fucking hates me. And everyone's looking at me like, you bastard. He said, and I hard face that. I got to deal with that every day. That's hard. That's mental discipline.
Well, I think you're right. I think he is split personality. I think the hard outer shell is Garak. But the soft in the shell that has to turn that on is
Elim.
Basically, Garrick's an armadillo.
I likes armadillos. Smooth on the inside, crunchy on the outside. Armadillos.
Armadillo, hard on the outside,
Very
smooth on the
similar
inside.
notes.
Armadillo.
I've got very similar notes to that. One of my main bullet points it is so cold, yet so emotional, so much so that it's tearing him apart inside.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I all respect to Andrew Robinson. I mean, we know he can play a cold-blooded bastard. That guy that he played in Dirty Harry was probably the worst type of bastard going. Do you know what I mean? He was just a savage, loony, lost it, lone nutcase. And he's a sadist, an absolute sadist, and he gets tortured by Dirty Harry in one of the best scenes in all of cinema, in the days before drones and wire cams and all of that kind of stuff. That scene on that football pitch, that American football pitch, where Dirty Harry shot him in the leg with a Magnum 44, which in actual fact, his whole leg would just disappear. But he's taken this bullet in his leg. He's gone down in the middle of the pitch. Dirty Harry goes over and stands on his leg. And he's like, I want a lawyer. And he's like, where's the girl? And he's not telling him. And he stands on his leg and he's torturing and he's screaming. And that scream that comes out of Andrew Robinson's mouth, actually, just thinking about it now, puts shivers up my back. It's just horrible. He's got bit parts and he's a pretty solid character actor. But if you wanted someone that could carry sadist bastard and not worry about playing, a lot of actors won't do it. I think he wanted to give him a heart. I don't think he wanted a one-dimensional character. And I think who said that there was unfinished business with Deep Space Nine and that character? Was that you, Dan? Yeah. I think A Stitch in Time was him not being able to let that go because he invested quite a lot into that character and he was still in there. I think he plays that beautifully. Like you say, Jed, he's got this sadist, exterior, dangerous thing going on. But underneath that, particularly with Bashir, when he has to open up, he's got this pain, this constant, sharp, relentless pain that he has to deal with. And he does it well. If you're in an environment where everyone's a certain type of thing and you're different to that, and the thing that you are isn't exactly flavor of the month, you can relate to that character. It's like what Star Trek does. It uses allegory. He's a Cardassian, but again, he's clearly gay. He is clearly, to me, he's clearly gay. And it's that kind of situation, it's that metaphor where I'm different to these people, but I've got to live amongst them and take their shit. And there's nowhere else for me to go. This is the only place I can be. I can't go back to that because I'm this now,
I thought it was Pan. Because when he's attracted to Guldacott's daughter.
Yeah. I almost thought the same.
Is it? I thought she was attracted to him.
Both same way.
They dated.
He made a promise to her, I'll get back. And he didn't want to let her down. And she refused to leave the station because he was coming back, which pissed old the cat off, where he disowned his fucking daughter.
That goes a lot deeper. Between... I don't know if you know this, and maybe this is a bit of an oh my, but he encourages her to pain massively.
Yeah.
During that episode, in later episodes where it's sort of kind of almost forgotten about, in Garrick's shop is the paintings that she drew in the background, and it stays there all of the seasons.
Yeah.
What is the history between Ducat and Garak? Why do they hate each other?
It's in a book, but the book's not fully canon, so it's never really fully explained.
No,
he's responsible for the death of his father. That's explained on screen, but it doesn't explain why.
Is that in Empok Nor, that? No, not Empok Nor, the one where it's under siege. The
Way of the Warrior.
Not Way of the Warrior.
Is it not the civil unrest or whatever it is?
Yeah,
yes, that's it. Yeah.
Defense, that's it. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Attention, Bajoran workers.
Bajoran workers, your attention, please.
I think there's layers to Garak that Andrew Robinson brought in. The sadist, the guy that's trapped in a place where he doesn't want to be. There is a lot of loyalty to his friends. And I think watching the Garak episodes, as I've been doing, actually Bashir comes through as everybody's friend. But Garak's got this thing going on with everyone. And I like that. I like his take on literature. He goes on about Shakespeare being predictable and all of that kind of stuff. And he goes on to say that that the greatest bit of Cardassian literature is an epic saga where they tell 7 stories, but it's the same story through 7 generations of selfless dedication and work for the state.
That's a great episode. Yeah, such a good scene is that, yeah.
Yeah,
But
and it's
so you get bored, you know the ending. It's like, no, that's what makes it good.
Yeah.
State always wins. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a big
And this,
KGB thing, isn't there, with Garak? I mean, and the Obsidian Order, because if we've talked about Enterprise being like the product of 9/11 or whatever, and it does feel like the way Cardassians view, because you mentioned like Nazis, and that, it's like they're pulling in like postmodernist, all the bad stuff, right? So a bit of the Nazis and KGB. I'm thinking more Cold War stuff. They're talking about
there's a
KGB
Gestapo thing, and I think what the writers were trying to do is there was a thing called extraordinary rendition going on at that point in time. The CIA had people in aircraft where they were torturing them in international airspace.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a crime because they weren't anywhere. And I think they were trying to make that analogy and use that metaphor to say, intelligence agencies, if they operate in the shadows completely, they can be quite torturous and murderous and not nice.
That's what the whole Next Generation did with the Tal Shiar, wasn't it? That was literally the point, and that is on record from the person that came up with the Tal Shiar. Was like, this was the Tal Shiar is supposed to be the KGB.
Yeah,
that's the whole point of them.
And I think there was a thing at the time as well. There were a few people coming out of that world with massive PTSD. And it wasn't because they were the victim of torture. It's because they were the forced perpetrators of torture. And I think Garak stands up for them as well. The state, this love of the state, this blind obedience and love of the state to do anything and commit any atrocity will leave these people broken. Even if they're into it, even if they believe, I don't mean into it as in a sadist, but even if they believe what they're doing is for the greater good, it will scar them. Yeah. And this bloke bears those scars. And this Obsidian Order connection that he's got, which, it's ingrained in him. He'll neither confirm or deny anything ever. And when he's asked over lunch with Bashir and he said, what do I believe? The truth? Is there anything true in what you say? Yes, there is. What about the lies? Especially the lies, that kind of thing. That's a massive line. Garak gets the best.
He has all the lines. He has all of them.
Yeah.
Like when you say to Worf in the runabout, I want to join Starfleet. And he gets into the point where he believes him and he goes, you don't want to? No, I don't. Well, then why'd you? Because I've always got to be good at it.
Because lying is a skill like any other, and if you want to maintain a level of excellence, you have to practice constantly.
He is one of my favorite characters in Star Trek because he's not this out-of-the-box Starfleet guy. He doesn't have to play by those rules. He's not driven by those same things. He's not even a Cardassian, really. He's not that Gul Dukat kind of military, brainless, soldier. He's got depth to it. And
but
like I say,
that's a scary thing. You feel like it could be. He wouldn't take much. Do you know what I mean? It feels like it wouldn't take much for him to be that.
I think Gulls were scared of. Well,
no, he used to be a Gull.
Yeah, but Gulls are scared of the Obsidian Order.
Everyone is, yeah.
So, and he was pretty high up. He was the right-hand man to his
Don't
dad.
forget that the Obsidian Order was introduced to us by torturing Picard for days. There are 4 lights. And that Room 101 Orwellian thing, that 1984 torture chamber where you come out and you don't know what to think anymore. They just scrambled your head. When DS9 got going, again, it was Garak was the plant. He was Cardassia's man. And they even said to him, are you a Cardassian spy? Did they leave you behind to watch what's going on here? And he's like, I don't know what you mean. I really don't know what you mean. And it turns out he's not a Cardassian spy. All right, he's got some connections and he loves his home and he loves his people. But he's not actually a paid-up informant. He's not a plant. He's not a spy. And the way that they set that up and it turned out not to be the case, I think that's brilliant. I think that's a good bit of story arc. And that progresses through the seasons. That, no, he's not that one-dimensional character. He's not like, oh, he's the plant. That's not what it is at all. I love that. I think that's brilliant. And I can get into that character more than any like in TNG, it's very generic. And I think TNG come at me at the right age. I was quite young when I was watching it, and it was quite simple, and there were nice characters in boxes. Data's a very nice Pinocchio type thing. He's trying to grow into a man. I was doing the same thing. I was trying to learn things, watching Geordie fuck up on his dates and all that lot. I was doing the same thing at that point in time. I think Deep Space Nine was a bit more grown up, and I think it came for me at the right time. And the thing that got me carrying on with my Star Trek fandom was the fact that there was the Quark characters and the Garak character. Andrew Robinson really, really does a good job with him. To keep that passive aggressive kind of, and you said the condescending is massively condescending. I think he kind of likes reminding people, do you know how dangerous I really am? And there's real pain in there, and it comes across. Not a lot of actors in Star Trek really are that good. I think Brent Spiner's quite good to carry off what he did for as long as he did. I like Brent Spiner as Data and Lore for Rachel's benefit, but if you see him in anything else, he's fucking shocking. I think LeVar Burton thinks
he's not fantastic as Data, to be honest with you.
I'm not seeing
He's very rigid, but that's what
he is. Yeah, I think LeVar Burton's pretty stale. I think Jonathan Frakes is pretty stale, to be honest. I think a lot of the cast of the Next Gen, the main cast, aren't very. And when they try to do things like pain or injury or anything that wasn't yes sir, and just go on and do it, it kind of takes me out of the world just for a second, and I have to try hard to buy into it and remember that this is Star Trek, all of that kind of stuff.
You say that, but I think that Next Generation came out at the right time, and it was the right Trek for that time, and I think that gave DS9 the gateway to explore darker sides of things.
I really, really love it, and I think every actor got the right character. That was pretty much their range. That's what they could do. I think Marina Sirtis kind of pushed it away from what they gave her and become something else. But I think everyone fit quite well. And after, when you get used to them and they just give them what they can do, they're all right. William Shatner gets panned a lot for how he talks. And he has all of these pauses like he's reading off cue cards.
I'm Slim Shady. Yes, I'm the real Shady. All you other Slim Shadys are just imitating. So, won't the real Slim Shady please stand up? Please stand up. Please stand up.
That kind of thing. Has anyone actually listened to Cisco? No, I'm just a man. Cisco.
Season 1 to 3 especially, yeah.
You think this is acceptable? It's worse. It's absolutely worse.
The sand was burning my feet, and I stopped here to...
I mean, they were good enough for what they were doing. Colm Meaney's a very good actor, actually. But I think Andrew Robinson's and Armin Shimmerman actually are fantastic actors. And that's not to say that they wear this makeup really well and they look good in that. They give a performance through that shit, which must take fucking hours to put on and really tax their patience.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Patrick. I think most of the best characters in DS9 and indeed Trek really are not what I suppose Quark, yes, is a main character eventually, but he's not what you traditionally think of a main character. I think Quark, Garak, Odo to an extent, and Gulda Kott, and obviously Weyoun and everybody else thingy players. I think they're the best actors by a long way.
Andrew Robinson, when he's doing pain, and like physical pain, and he's like, oh God, and he falls onto the, I mean, that's Leonard Nimoy giving his best shot, and he looks fucking stupid. Right? That is the worst acting. I love it, but come on, Andrew Robinson on top form here, and he's doing this, and he does anger, and anger comes from fear and pain, and he's doing this. When he starts on Bashir, he's like, I'm absolutely fucking sick of you. I choke through these fucking lunches, staring into your sanctimonious fucking face every day, and I just want to tear it off and fucking kill you, man. That's what I really want to do. He plays it well, and I believe him. Over and above the thing about, the Cardassians or the crocodiles, and they like heat, and there's all these details, over and above A Stitch in Time, over and above the Obsidian Order, And the seminal parts that he plays to drive the story and be that link to Cardassia and all of that kind of stuff is this powerhouse performance by Andrew Robinson. It's just absolutely brilliant. When Cisco punches him straight in the face, you killed that man. He's like, I did what needed to be done because you lot ain't got the bottle. I absolutely love that, the way that story panned out. And that gave Cisco this moral conundrum, like, all right, this happened on my watch, but I'm glad it did. Do you know what I mean? And that, like you said, Jed, the anti-hero, he's not a villain. Garak isn't a villain. He's an anti-hero, and he really is. And he takes a lot of shit. He gets battered by the Klingons. He gets battered by the Jem'Hadar. He gets a load of shit, and he gets slammed about by the Bajorans, and people keep trashing his shop. And he takes a load. He is a hard bastard. Really hard bastard.
Like in Way of the Warrior, where you can't get that information to Cardassia because the Klingons are en route. Because they're allies. Garak, can you come to the office? Can you come to my office? I need you to measure my, and he takes, and they're talking, and he says, "Have you got?" He said, "I've got everything I need," and gets in contact with him.
Well, that's a great scene because you could look at it thinking, oh, they're using Garak as a puppet, but Garak doesn't think that. Garak thinks they need me. So again, it's all about that power play. What happens next is they owe him one, even if they'll never actually admit it. And everyone's got plausible deniability as well. Well, I've lost some weight, so I needed some, maybe we said some things we shouldn't have done. I can't remember. You know what I mean? They've all got that as well. But it was,
and that's a massive position of trust.
Yeah.
He's in there. He's one of them. He's in on that station, in that crew, delivering that shit.
With the senior officers, yeah.
But Garak, and they treat him with that respect, and they bring him in, and he is actually the inside-outside guy. He is. And actually, I think A Stitch in Time adds so much to this character. And I'm glad the audiobook's out because it shouldn't be an expensive secret. It's an excellent extension. There's nothing that contradicts canon. And as John Joe said, you got to take everything Garak says with a ginormous pinch of salt. So even that whole story, really,
End with a sense. Yeah.
You can't. I know it's tempting, John Joe, but you can't give it away.
I don't think Garak would have existed. I don't think Deep Space Nine would have existed if Gene Roddenberry was still alive.
No, I
At that
agree.
time.
Completely, yeah. He would have hated Garak.
Yeah.
He hated confrontation. He didn't want confrontation on the bridge. He didn't want,
He hated Garak.
No, I think he
would have done. He would have done.
I mean, I've got to like Gene Roddenberry for bringing the original Star Trek, but I am not a massive Gene Roddenberry fan at all.
He turned into
I think the stuff after he died was much better.
Also, he did hold it back. He had no conflict, and also he had this big thing where, like Marina Sirtis, for example, I think it was Troy. Oh, she's got to have 3 tits, or whatever he wanted to have 6 tits or something.
Yeah.
It was just a dirty perv at the end, and it did feel like it was using Star Trek to kind of just as his own way of living out his own fantasies. Yes, I want her to have 6 tits. I want her to be nude all the time.
But because he was doing Nichelle and Majel, and Nichelle took a step back because she was like, I'm not getting in the triangle.
I didn't realize
I don't want no part of this. And Majel wants him more than I do, so you can have him, love.
He did a lot of great stuff. He brought it in, and without him, we wouldn't have had TNG. And he set TNG, I think, on the right path. Like somebody in here said, I think it was Steve said it. We needed that Star Trek. At that point, all we'd had was TOS and the movies. This really did create I think it kind of made the modern fandom, because if it had just been the original series, it would be this niche thing, a bit of a cult thing, whereas all of a sudden the universe expanded.
So I think most people already know that Garak's my favourite character in Star Trek. In all of Star Trek, from the original series right through to the newest releases, Garak's my absolute favourite character in Star Trek. And I think it's just because he's so different than everybody else. There's nothing restricting him. There's nothing holding him back. He's just out there doing what he wants to do. And it's so interesting and so unpredictable. It just gives you something to work with, like, every week. He's like your worst best friend, your worst best ally. If Garak's on your side, then great, brilliant. You should have some kind of advantage if Garak's on your side. If he's not on your side, you should be extremely worried, because God knows what he's going to do. But if he's on your side, you kind of have to remember who you're working with, because right, he's on your side, but he's got his own agenda. He has always got his own agenda, his own motivation. He's not helping you necessarily because he thinks you're right. He's helping you because it serves him in some way. You've got to remember who you're working with. You can't go away on a mission with Garak and just think, yeah, he'll do what we've asked him to. He'll not pull anything unexpected out the bag, because that's not who he is at all. He's a great character in scenes with other characters. Like on his own he's not really doing anything, he's not giving anything away, but with other characters, he's a great comparison. So obviously there's a lot of Garak and Bashir in DS9 from the first scene with them together. Bashir kind of comes into the show as very naive, very socially awkward, socially inexperienced, and Garak kind of comes over and goes, hello, and just kind of takes charge of the situation and runs the conversation, and Bashir gets like 2 words in. And that's always kind of the dynamic with them, is Bashir wants to know what's happening and Garak knows what's happening but isn't telling him. So there's always something, every time they're in a scene together, Garak always has the upper hand, regardless. Garak's great to compare to Dukat as well, because they're very similar but they're very different. Garak is 100% reliably loyal to Cardassia, and Dukat is constantly trying to prove that he's loyal to Cardassia, but it always falls through. You can always see he's not. It's always his own little schemes that are going on, and you can see through it. You can always see through it that Dukat doesn't really have the best intentions for his planet, whereas Garak does. Usually as best as you can tell, Garak really does want what's best for Cardassia, regardless of the circumstances. And Dukat's always trying to be suave and popular, and he's trying to get people on his side, and he's trying to get people to like him. And Garak just blatantly doesn't try. He doesn't try to make anyone like him. As far as he's concerned, if everyone in the station thinks he's a spy and thinks he can't be trusted, that's fine. That works well for him. You know, there's no effort to make people like him, but he doesn't care. But everyone likes him anyway, to some degree. They might not trust him, but they like him, like having him around. And Dukat, you just hate him. You love to hate him because he's trying so hard to be likeable. I love the comparison between those two as Cardassians, as trying to define what a Cardassian is. Garak's character development is very subtle. Like, unless you're really looking for it, it doesn't jump out at you. But you go from season 1 to season 7, and over time, it's not just, well, I'm doing my thing and I'm going to manipulate you into helping me. It's more like, right, we have the same end goal. Let's work together. And it's a willingness to work together. And everyone kind of comes round to like, right, okay, maybe we can't trust him, but, you know, we can trust him to do what he's interested in and what he thinks is best. So you've got all the way to season 7, you've got Garak and Kira working so closely together, and that relationship, they might not be friends, but she definitely has an amount of trust in him, or at least respect for him to do what he is determined to do. Throughout the series, everything Garak does is pretty much unpredictable. You cannot guess what he's going to do next. But everything that he does is completely in character. There's nothing that happens in the series that you kind of go, oh, that was a weird decision. Except like Ziyal, but that's obviously like, even that's managed to be acted in such a way that he seems uncomfortable, and it works brilliantly. There's no one else in all of Star Trek that doesn't have this like really rigid group that they're part of. He's not Cardassian military, he's not really Obsidian Order anymore, he's not Starfleet, he's not Bajoran Resistance, he's not tied to any of these groups, so he just does what he wants, and purely his own motivation all the time. And that's what makes him interesting, because if his decision of the best course of action to get the outcome he wants is to kill a bunch of people, he will just do that. And there's no kind of group or higher up person to like tell him, no, you can't do that. So everyone kind of knows, is like, yeah, Garak's going to do probably the most extreme thing you have to do to get the thing done, but he will get it done. Obviously, and the Pale Moonlight kind of captures that brilliantly. And Sisko kind of knows what he's signing himself up for. He knows that this is not going to go the way he wants. And I don't think Sisko's surprised that by the end of these events that people are dead, because he turned around and asked Garak for help. What did you expect to happen? I don't think there's been a character as deeply layered and well developed before or since in all of Star Trek, and I just absolutely love to watch the bare minimum of episodes that he's in, because he adds something extra that no other character adds. And the show would have been so much worse off if they just left it as a one and done and he never came back. So yeah, Garak really makes DS9 for me, especially as he gets more and more involved into season 7. Garak makes the show what it is and makes it as good as it is, and will always be my favourite character forever. Yeah.
When we talked about TNG, one of the things we often talk about is some of the crew, or some of the cast, and this isn't knocking the actors, it's the writing. The characters don't really sit, like Geordi we've mentioned and Crusher we've mentioned. We love those characters, but the only reason we kind of love them is because we were there for so long, for 7 seasons. Well, Crusher for 6, but you were exposed to them, so it became part of the scenery. But the truth is, they didn't really add much because of the writing. They just weren't really developed much. Whereas it does feel like Garak really does enrich the Star Trek universe. The Star Trek universe is a much richer universe because of that character and because of Andrew Robinson. And I think ultimately that's why we're talking about him today, because it just brings so much to it, and there is a lot to talk about.
You do have a certain flair for sarcasm. It's one of the things I like about you.
Yeah, every episode that Garak's in is brilliant.
Come on.
What's happened here?
Are you all right,
What's gone on?
Right, I'll tell you what's happened.
Go on.
I went and picked something up today from Alteration Boutique. Mikil, the gentleman who served us, while I'm getting changed, I'm saying how much I've lost weight and where he's put it. He said, I'll give you some cabbage soup tonight. And the fella turned around to her and went, what language is that?